What did you make of Donald Trump's Tulsa rally, the sort of fallout of it, James? We saw him come back, I think, looking pretty flat, I have to say, returning to Washington. He is a guy that feeds off the crowd, and I think the momentum for his campaign came from those large-scale rallies and the speeches that had, great sort of viral currency online. If he can't do that because of COVID, if he can't do that because the left have got smart about booking in tickets for people that'll never turn up, what happens now?
Yeah, look, and this is a real problem for Trump. That speech was, it was a very good speech if times were good. It was his usual sort of, entertaining routine that he does that sometimes lands somewhere between Jerry Lewis and Jackie Mason with some of the comedy. But, it is also something that it's a good time speech, and he doesn't have yet a way to connect with people in the bad times, which we are in the United States is very much in. And I think that he is suffering right now because he knows people want him to take action on everything that's going on, the lawlessness, the statues, this bizarre autonomous zone or CHOP or whatever it is today in Seattle. They see the lawlessness, and they elected Trump to be a strong leader, and yet this keeps going on, and I think he's worried that if he acts too fast or too precipitously, he'll wind up with a huge PR disaster on his hands that will be used against him in the campaign. So I think he's sorting out what he's going to do next.
Cory, he went to the wall in Mexico. It's an incomplete wall, or it's not in Mexico, it's on the border, but he was on obviously the US side. He went down to that wall basically to talk about the pledge he made back in 2016. Now, the left say, oh, how dumb. He goes to the wall and he draws attention to the fact that he never completed it. The right, or his supporters and others, say, well, hang on, he goes down there and he amplifies the fact that there are a whole lot of blockers in the Congress that mean the wall, despite his will, is not completed. How say you?
Well, I think he's reminding people that of his election promise and, certainly pointing the finger elsewhere. But my sense of the American people is that this is a secondary issue now. They've got huge domestic problems at home. They're worried about this economic recovery. They want their president to restore law and order. And he is hamstrung. James made a very good point. But the system in America hamstrings the president because he either has to mobilise the army or he's got to sort of sidestep the states. And these are belligerent Democrat states who are empowering lawlessness deliberately to harm the presidency and change the election outcome. So he's kind of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. But I think he'll get his mojo back. I think he'll feed off the crowds and the attacks on him again. And I'm still hopeful that he'll win re-election.
Yeah, he's still got to motivate his people to get out that vote, and the left with all of these rallies and Black Lives Matters are certainly there. He came out, James, with a really tough position, up to 10 years in prison for anyone caught vandalising monuments, I think specifically who went hard on the veterans' memorials. That will certainly get Middle America back in his camp, won't it?
Yeah, I think that, plus also, Peter, I'd also, point out that he's also really pushed the Justice Department to press federal charges against a lot of these rioters who have committed really violent crimes, throwing Molotov cocktails at police cars and things like that, where they might have been dealt with by state or local systems, which would have been a lot more lenient, particularly in Democrat-controlled jurisdictions. So the fact that he's coming down hard on them legally and that we're going to hopefully see some of the people who are really behind a lot of this lawlessness going to jail or facing some serious federal jail time, that I think is a really good step. But he's going to have to do more, because the more the headlines are about the autonomous zone and statues and all of this, the more people are going to feel like the country is out of control, which will only play to his benefit for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, you're right. Then it crosses into this chaos and, he hasn't done a good job being a steward, etc.